but it's fine because also if you don't know about it and you think it's just role play of rape, like that's okay to like be a little like, because maybe there is something a little bit wrong. But as we pointed out, it can in fact be healing and be the answer for a lot of people.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry
at the same time.
Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I'm one of your hosts, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I work in social media and marketing, and I need to get fucked expeditiously.
And I'm your other host, Autumn. Like this season, I'm completely dependent on weed, cannot go an hour without it, and I work as a freelancer in entertainment. If you guys are new here, what we do on So Wet, So Dry is we deep dive topics about sex, relationships, identities, all through the lens of pop culture, internet trends, and our community's experiences. We post polls for every episode to give y'all an opportunity to have your voice heard, and we always share it on the podcast, so make sure you're following us on Instagram to be a part of that.
Yes, at So Wet, So Dry, O's or zeros everywhere. And today we have a kinky episode. We're talking about CNC, or consensual non-consent. We're defining the kink. We're going to give some examples. We're going to talk about if it's normal or not. We're going to talk about the stigma, all of those things. But before we do that,
we're going to start the episode the way we always do, talking about what we're so wet and so dry in this very moment. Right now, I'm so wet about paying off my debt because it's not done yet, but in the new year, I decided, like, I'm not an auto pay girly. Like, I don't like for them to have control. I want to submit the payment when I'm ready, but I have become auto pay because it just needs to be done. So I'm on auto pay for my loans, auto pay. Some money will go into my savings when it's deposited. Auto pay on credit card debt because I don't have that much credit card debt, but it's definitely a significant amount. And I just have been like not doing anything about it for like over a year. So I'm paying that off on auto pay as well. And I'm just going to get it done. You know what I mean? So I'm wet about that.
Nice. Okay. I signed up for Consolidate Credit, guys. It's this, you can't have a credit card while you have it, but you pay off your debt faster.
Oh yeah, you told me about it.
Yeah, so if you guys are looking for one, I recommend it. Your like monthly payments are cheaper, but you can't have a credit card, which kind of sucks.
We can link it below.
Yeah. I'm so wet about, okay, so I have a new fantasy and it goes in with this episode. So lately when I've been masturbating, like I kind of think about like CNC type things sometimes, but I have this new fantasy where I'm like on top of a guy, like riding him, right? But he's kind of like, stop, like, what are you doing? Like, chill. And I'm like going hard on the dick. But then he like chokes me and he's like slapping me. So it's like he like doesn't want it, but then he wants it, and then he's being aggressive, but I'm also being aggressive. It's like very intense. But I had some really good orgasms thinking about it.
Anyone in particular?
Anyone what? Person?
Yeah.
No, maybe.
But it's
you
more
know, it's
so
just a mysterious man.
Yeah.
His face is blank with a question mark. It could be different figures put in and out.
I know exactly who it is, but
Okay.
I think that speaks volumes because I think you really have that switch energy. So like that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like you want to do a little bit of both, and you can, babe. Okay, you will find someone that like wants to take it and give it. Like you know what
I want to give it, but then I also want them to smack me around. So like, and I haven't really been into the slapping shit. I feel like I would pick that up from you, but like I was thinking about it, and I was like, no, that would be so hot if they smacked me. So I'm into
it. Because like slaps don't even hurt. Like especially during sex, it's like if it's done right and quickly and efficiently and not like OD hard. It's just like, what the fuck happened? Like, I didn't even feel shit.
In my fantasy, it's OD hard. Like, in my fantasy, it's definitely, like, very aggressive. Like, yeah.
Damn. Okay. Well, I'm so here for it. That is very on trend for the episode. We'll definitely talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
For my dry, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of dry about therapy. I know we always like promote you guys going to therapy, but I'm just like annoyed right now in therapy. I don't know what the fuck we're doing. I don't want to see her. I feel like I need to move on, and like, I'm just dry. I don't want to deal with it. Like, I don't want to spend too much time even talking about this, but like, that's what I'm dry about.
I think you need a new therapist. We've been saying this.
I know. It's been my dry before. There's nothing wrong with her. Like, I just think, like, it's just, I used to be obsessed with her. Like, not obsessed in a weird way, but, like, I just really liked her, and I thought she was helpful. But now I'm just kind of like, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to go.
It's time to move on. That's good, though.
I'll probably cry. Like, it's like she knows everything about me.
To them. Or you could just pause for a little bit.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't like the permanency.
Yeah. I love my therapist. Like, I was thinking the other day, like, I would want her to come to my fucking wedding if I got married. But they can't, obviously, because you can't have a real... Actually, I saw this, like, tweet or TikTok the other day that said that women's, like, Roman Empire or like delusion or something is thinking that their therapist actually cares about them. No, it was that men, you know how men think strippers actually want to fuck them?
Yeah.
It was like women's thing is thinking that their therapist actually cares about them.
I like definitely think mine does.
I think mine
I think I'm going to hurt her feelings when I leave.
Yeah. Like you develop a bond. They know everything about you. Like
right. Anyways, what about you?
Okay, so you guys know, like, I have a full-time job, but I do freelance marketing, too, and I was doing it through this agency that I used to work with, and then, like, someone through that agency that I knew about hit me up about a PR job. So I had, like, done the whole proposal. I was, like, doing all the work for it, like, whatever, and then I hadn't heard from, like, the guy in a while, because the guy that I was working with is this, like, older man, and, like, he goes between me and the client. And so he called me and he was like, I'm like so sorry I haven't gotten back to you, like da-da-da-da. Apparently the client that I was supposed to work with is sexist and didn't want to hire me and is like a Trump supporter and all this stuff. And like he didn't want to hire me because I'm a woman. And he was like, I came to realize that because I kept going back and forth with him and it was no problem hiring the web developer or hiring the designer and they were both men. And he was like, and then I started to be like, this is what it is. And so he ended up firing the client over that, which I'm like, that's so cool of you. Like, this is an old white man in his 70s. And I'm like, the fact that you had my back like that and you like fired a client, like, I was just like, I got so much more like faith and respect and like hope for
what did you say?
I was just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I felt kind of bad too because I didn't really want to like do that project super hard because I'm super busy right now and it was kind of overwhelming me. So I was kind of like, it's fine that I haven't heard back. But he was like so concerned and like so apologetic on the phone and just so sweet. And I was like, oh my God, like he was like, you know, I really want to work with you again in the future. Like we'll find better clients. Like this isn't it. We don't want to work with those people, like whatever. And I'm like, I love you.
That's crazy, dude.
Right?
Hey guys, we just wanted to give a trigger warning. We do mention and talk about sexual assault and rape throughout this entire episode. If that is something triggering to you, please do not watch the episode. The only reason we talked about it is because it does relate directly to CNC as a kink. Okay, bye. So as Fiji said, today we are talking about consensual non-consent, CNC for short. So before we get into anything, we got to define this bitch because I didn't know what it means, even though I do it all the time. But it's essentially a kink, and it does exist within the BDSM sphere. And there are levels to this shit. Like CNC could be like knife play, or it could just be like, no, stop, like pussy shit. You know what I mean? So like it's a big, you know, umbrella of kinks, if you will. But essentially, consensual non-consent is a style of BDSM play in which everyone involved agrees to behave in a manner that mimics non-consensual behavior. It involves consensual, intense role play of one individual consensually sexually assaulting the other, which is not always like the SA stuff, but it can be. I think like bottom line, it's basically just like a type of role play. That's like you are acting like you don't want to fuck, but you do want to. Right. And you've told them like, we're going to do that. It's like a fantasy role play. It's not for real, but it can be so intense that it feels real. But that's essentially what it is.
Right, like how I was talking about my fantasy earlier, and I was like,
Right.
the dude is like, no. He's not really like, no, like I'm, trigger warning, raping him. It's no, like he wants it, but he's acting it.
Like he doesn't.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify one thing too. I think when it says intense role play and like the sexually assaulting thing, like I think it's more of a spectrum. Like it can be intense, but it doesn't have to be. It could literally just be like you're having very vanilla missionary sex and the girl is saying, no, stop, no.
Because that's common.
Going. Yeah.
That's more common. Like you hear about that. And it's almost like no, stop because it feels so good, but you're only saying like no, stop. So it's like, it's a little, even though it's vanilla, it's still a little bit. But yes, exactly. Like it's more so just like mimicking that non-consensual behavior, like saying no, maybe you're like pushing them away a little bit. So it can be like more low key. And I think in our polls, like people were kind of like assuming that we meant the very high key version, which is like kidnapping role play, like actual sexual assault role play.
But the first poll that we asked you guys is, have you ever done consensual non-consent or CNC play? And only 37% of you guys said yes and 63% said no. I'm honestly surprised. I think it also has to do with the fact that we did put the definition there. And
heavily.
We said
we might have fucked up.
Yeah, we might have, like, because we were like, we have to put the definition because not everyone's going to know. Like, we didn't really know beforehand.
It's like lingo. Like, it's like CNC. Like, if you're not in the BDSM world, I guess, why would you know that? If you're not interested in doing that type of sex, why would you know that? Maybe just, like, you're a trivia fan. I don't know. But, like, I didn't know there was, like, a word for it. And, like, because it can also, like, feel kind of like people don't really talk about it. So it's like you don't expect for there to be a word about it. But people do in the kink communities, obviously.
Yeah, so, it's better to talk about it.
Right.
But yeah, so I would not be surprised, and this could just be me assuming, if some of those 63% have done, like, some of the later forms of CNC without really knowing it.
Right.
But, you know, that's part of, like, what we wanted to do in this episode was, like, educate you guys and all of that, too.
And ourselves, because we did research. So, you know, we didn't know everything either. So, yeah, it's interesting. But, again, I think we did kind of throw it off by doing our definition. Because, yeah, we did say rape play in it. So, I think that was, people are like, no, I've never done rape play. Like, but so, yeah. But, okay, and then the next poll was, if you have never done it, would you try it? And so the next poll we asked you guys is, if you've never done it, would you ever try it? And 46% said yes. That was the majority. But 27% said no. And about 27% said maybe. So I guess, you know, there's some people that are definitely like, I don't want to, whether they're scared of it, it's triggering, etc. But I think it's cool that, like, some people, you know, lean towards maybe, because I think it's, like, fun. Like, I don't like to rule anything out personally.
Right.
I'm like, maybe, why not? You know what I mean?
You never know. If not now, in a couple years with the right person.
With the right person, exactly. Because that's everything. I'm not about to do CNC with some fucking dude off the street. Like,
no.
No. But yeah, so I kind of think we should talk about, like, if we've ever done it and, like, maybe share a few stories. I've pretty much done it consistently with the majority of people that I've been with. And it's ranged from, like, the vanilla, no, stop, like, pretending I don't want it when I really do, to, like, more, like, essay territory rape play. Like, I have done that, okay? I have done that. And it's something I feel a little nervous talking about on the internet, okay? Because I've done it, like, the essay stuff I've only done with two particular partners, and I was in love with them. We were together, blah, blah, blah. I felt super, super safe. And it's interesting because, like, my ex-boyfriend, as much as he was, like, you know, Mr. Player over here, like, I turned him on to that shit. Like, he said he's never done, like, rape play fantasy before. I'd never met a girl that would be comfortable with that. And I'm like some sexual freak over here, whatever. But he fucking loved that shit. And then he told me, he was like, I can't fuck any girl the same now because all I want to do is like this rape play shit. And I was like, okay. Because why do I be constantly wanting it? And it's really just like we'll get into why. But I think I've just done it because I like it. Like, I've just done it because I like it. And my first girlfriend turned me on to it But I literally always say no, just like naturally. Like just it just comes out like I'm always saying no. But I've done rape play, role play where like we were like also pretending to be different people. Like we were like at a bar or like it was my brother's like best friend or something like that. Not like my actual brother, like just like pretend me's brother. But yeah, I've done it a fucking lot. Like I've done it a lot.
You've been the sub, right?
Oh yeah, always the sub. If that was not clear with my butterfly clips, bitch, I am the sub for sure, which is intense, but it's also intense doing that to someone. And it can be just as intense being the dom or the sub. I feel like there is the stigma where it's like it's so intense, the poor sub or whatever.
Right.
But it's a lot on the dom too. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely done more of the like vanilla stuff, like more of the just like no, stop, like whatever. And I feel like I've done like both where like I've been sub and I've been dom or I've been verse in both situations. I would do the rape play stuff. I've never done like any actual role play that I can like think of. Like the closest I feel like I've ever gotten to role play was like one time in college. It was like Halloween and I was like dressed as a nun for Halloween and we like kind of did role play like a little bit when we got home.
That's crazy. Nun role play?
Yeah, I forget what he was, but I don't know. But like we made a sex tape that night too. But yeah, we did like some little shit. But like I would definitely want to. Like I definitely think about it when I masturbate. But yeah, it definitely totally turns me on. Like I love like the no, stop. I love the idea of being like kind of dominated where it's like you don't have control.
Yeah.
And they're like taking you against your will. Like it's, to me, it feels like you know 50 Shades of Grey and how they talked about like so many women, it's like when you're in control all the time you want to not be. Right. And like whatever. And it's also like this thing that I'm like very conceptually against in like regular society, but it feels safe in like a kink space.
Totally.
So I'm very into it, very here for it, looking for someone who would do it with me in a healthy way, for sure.
Yeah, and I also like remember with my ex-boyfriend specifically, like I would be like, it's too big, like it hurts, and I would try to like kind of come off of it a little. Like I wouldn't be like leaning in while he's fucking me. It's like I'm slowly getting away. Yeah. And he'd be like, where the fuck do you think you're going? Like pull me back in, bitch. And it was just like, fuck. Like, it's just, like, complete surrender. Like, I'm going to just let this person, like, destroy me. And it's, like, it's role play in general. Like, my first girlfriend turned me onto it. And then I, not introduced it to my partners, but I was, like, suggesting it. Like, can we please, like, do this at some point?
Yeah.
But, yeah. And I think, I wish we had, like, more kinky friends, like, kink-minded people. Because it really is, like, it's so beautiful that, like, something like this, which, like, non-consensual sex is, like, horrible.
Right.
And it's cool that, like, you can make it consensual in, like, a kink way. And not, you know, feel shame about it. Because I think I did feel shame about it for a while. Like, why do I like this? Yeah. But I'm really at a point now where, like, I kind of think I know why I like it. And we'll get into it. And I'm okay with it, you know? Like, it is what it is. Like, we all like different things. Like, fuck, I don't know.
If it turns you on and if it gives you pleasure, then, like, and everyone is okay with it.
And it's a healthy way, there's nothing. Good.
I will say one thing, though, that within doing CNC and the little times that I have, like, I don't think I've ever had a conversation about it beforehand. It was more something that happened naturally, which I know we're going to talk about like in a little bit. So I'm definitely like interested to learn about that because that's probably not the best practice, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've definitely done both, but like with my partners, like we did talk about it like a lot and like had safe words as well. Like, I'm not going to say what they were.
To do more of the like
the intense. Yeah. Like, I've, like, blacked out from being choked so hard, you guys. Like, I'm crazy. Like, I lived for it. It was fucking crazy. Like, I've never blacked out like that before. Like, it was a core memory. He's like, you okay, baby?
See, that's like, no, I'm not. My fantasy is of the slapping and the choking. Like, I want to be, like, dead in a fucked up way.
I low-key was saying? For a second. But, yeah, so It's crazy, but it's not all like that. Like, it can be. And we say vanilla, but some people are like saying no during sex is more than vanilla. But to us, it's like, I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, so first we're going to talk about how CNC as a kink can be healing for folks. And then we're going to talk about how CNC as a kink can be detrimental for people. So we're going to talk about the healing shit first. And essentially we all know Urban Dictionary. I looked up consensual non-consent on Urban Dictionary because I was like, oh, maybe this is like up there, like whatever. And they basically said, like, it's a sexual fantasy kink, blah, blah. And it's often used as a coping mechanism for rape or sexual assault survivors to reclaim authority over their own body. And I don't consider myself a sexual assault survivor. I have, like, disassociated during sex before, and, like, it gets wishy-washy. But at the end of the day, I do not consider myself that. So I don't know. I cannot speak to that. But I have heard that kind of thing before. I have people in my life that have been sexually assaulted, and I've heard this come up or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, but I can't speak to that exactly.
Yeah, I would say, like, honestly, for me, I don't consider myself a sexual assault, like, survivor, but I've definitely had, like, gray areas of things where I wasn't sure if I gave consent. And also, a lot of my very early sexual experiences, I didn't necessarily, like, completely know what was going on until it was, like, happening, and then I just
Right.
kind of went with it. So I feel like, for me, like, I can definitely relate to that idea of, like, not wanting it or pretending you don't want it and it turning you on, because I feel like some of my, like, early sexual experiences and just sex I've had in the past, it makes sense. You know?
Yeah. And because I would say, like, oh, it's the strip club. Like, it's because I was violated at the strip club. But no, bitch. I was doing this shit since I was 19. There was no strip club yet. Like, it's so, you know what I mean? Can't say it's because I'm a stripper, because it was before. But anyways, I also looked on Reddit to see if I could find some stuff about CNC. And I saw this post that I want to read real quick. So basically the post says, the way my therapist explained it to me, why it was okay to have conflicting desires with my past trauma, really helped me get past my shame and embarrassment of wanting to be involved in play that seems like it would be triggering, possibly even psychologically harmful to me, given what I've suffered at the hands of my ex and abuser. She said, quote, by having these rape and forced fantasies in a most intimate and subconscious way, you're reclaiming your power from your rapist and abuser, because now you're in control. You determine when it happens, so to speak. You say how rough. You create what boundaries are there. All of the parameters are set forth from within the limits and wants of which you are capable. But most importantly, you do it within the scope of a healthy relationship with someone who did the very thing your ex could and did never do. Respect you and your body as something of worth, and for whatever reason that partner does so doesn't matter. The point is, this person values your worth where someone who should have the most did not, and that is an extremely powerful healing experience. So basically just saying that, like, she's able to kind of take back her power, sort of in a sense of doing this type of fantasy in a consensual and safe environment with someone that cares and respects her. And so that's healing for her to be able to take control back a little bit.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense, because, like, even though you're saying, like, no and you're, like, not in control, like, if you talk about it beforehand and you agree on this kink, like, you have complete control, you have a safe word, you know when you can stop. So it is kind of like almost in a weird, fucked up way reliving that experience of trauma, but in a way that's, like, rewiring your brain and, like, making it, like, reliving it.
And I think I've talked about this on the podcast, but I do have a desire to work in, like, the wellness space in terms of massage therapy and, like, getting rid of trauma through massage therapy. So I've done, like, research on that just because I'm interested in it. And, like, people will go in that, like, have been sexually assaulted, and the therapist, the massage therapist will, like, massage, like, certain areas that they feel like the trauma's in their body, and they'll, like, scream and cry and, like, have flashbacks, but it's like it's healing, and the therapist will be like, you're safe, you're loved. Like, it's sad, but it's, like, beautiful, you know what I mean? So if you can, like, do that with someone that you trust and, like, take that back, like, I think that's an amazing thing. But it doesn't work for everyone, but it did work for this person, so I just wanted to share that.
Yeah,
And then
I was gonna say, like,
yeah.
I like feel that because, like, even though like my trauma with my ex wasn't sexual, it was like, you know, physical abuse and
Exactly.
emotional abuse and stuff like that. Like, a lot of the times, like, we would make up by having sex, and like I wouldn't want it. Like, I would be like pretending I wouldn't because I was still mad at him, which I didn't really like. It was so complicated, but then we'd have sex. But I have found, like, through masturbating, that I feel like I've kind of done like what you were saying with the massage therapy, where like I've had orgasms where I've literally like bawled my eyes out and felt like this like release of like trauma. You know, because sometimes I think you can cry from an orgasm just because it like feels so good or like it hits all these different nerves or whatever, but like I do really think orgasms can be like healing, and the way that you're having sex to kind of like heal that trauma. And I remember talking to my therapist about it, and like the first time it happened, I was like, I was thinking about my ex because I was thinking about him when I like did this, but it was like in a different way. And I told her, I started crying, and she was like, don't like feel shame about that. Like, that's like normal. Like, it's okay. Like, it's healthy. Like, you have control of it. Like, you're, you know, kind of the similar thing. So I'm here for it. I love that. And I definitely think it's even though there's such a stigma, I think it can be really healthy.
Yeah, and I think this person posted on Reddit to like kind of like, be the voice for like other survivors that might also feel this way and like feel shame about it. It's like, why, how on earth would I be into that kink wise after what happened to me? And I just
Right.
think that's, a great explanation as to maybe why. And then lastly, from this article, Sexual Health Alliance, it also talked about this same idea and basically just says kink and BDSM in general, it allows the chance to experience pain, fear, excitement, arousal, and adrenaline in a structured and consensual way. It is all built on consent, choice, and respecting boundaries. This consensual aspect of play allows our bodies to build new positive experience that can rewire or overwrite past traumatic experiences.
Yeah, I love the rewire and overwrite thing because, like, with any sort of like trauma and like PTSD, like, I know that I have like trauma responses and like PTSD, and like it's been scary because it's happened to me before in certain situations where I almost go into just like fight or flight mode based off of like whatever. So, like, you really do, like, if your brain is kind of like, it's rewired when you go through trauma.
Right.
So, like, to be able to, like, find this way to heal that and try to experience these experiences in a way that's healthy, and almost, like, you're never going to return back to how you were before you were assaulted or before you went through abuse, but, like, you're building this new perspective on it and this new, like, being able to find like beauty in it.
Right.
That sounds fucked up.
No,
but, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think like again, it's not going to work for everyone, and I don't think it will. It's not like an end all like be all
Right.
cure to that kind of trauma.
Right.
But I think for the people that like have kind of gone that route and feel shame about it, I think this is like a really cool thing to kind of, be like, well, no, this actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't feel shame about it. And then you have people like, me that like I've never really been in that situation and I love it so much. Have I
Right.
felt unsafe around certain men and like been violated? Yeah, like a lot, bitch. Like
Yeah.
I've like strip club experiences have been rough, but like so so maybe it's like I'm really like bordering that fucking line of it, but I just don't think I've like crossed it.
Well, because I think, like, and this might be me, like, deeping it, like, too much, but I think, like, as a woman, just, like, in society, like, there's so much lack of control that you have, like, over other people perceiving your body and,
Right.
like, looking at you sexually or, like, crossing your boundaries and all of that, that, like, even if you haven't experienced, like, rape or sexual assault, like, in those actual, like, physical terms that way, like, you've experienced a lot of similar things to that. So it's like it can make sense. Same with the BDSM shit, like with
Right.
the 50 Shades of Grey and like whatever, because it's kind of the other thing I think about is shame and how, because I think like I grew up in like a lot of religious school, and sex wasn't really something that was like talked about in my family. Like it wasn't really like a thing that I like learned in a like healthy normal way with like the adults in my life. So, or like was educated about. So I feel like I felt a lot of sexual shame for even wanting sex. So also sometimes when I do the oh no stop thing, it's like, oh, because I'm not supposed to want it, but I do want it. So it feels like that. Does that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I honestly think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, I think there's a lot of people out there that like grew up and like sex wasn't something you could be outward about. And then people kind of figure it out in college and all of that. So that's why it's like even like CNC as a kink like can come off as just like something like so wild to people
Right.
as to why on earth you would want to do that. But I think when you practice it and like listen to people that have done it, like it's nothing crazy. Like it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be.
Right.
But yeah, let's talk about now how CNC, consensual non-consent, can be detrimental. Can it be detrimental? I don't know. Let's find out.
Okay, so the next poll that we asked you guys is, do you think it's easy for things to go wrong during CNC play? And 83% of you guys said yes, and 17% said no. And I would agree, yes. I think this like makes a lot of sense. I actually have had it go like kind of wrong before. Nothing like crazy, but I was like hooking up with this guy. It was my first time having sex with him. And I was just kind of like, no, like stop, like do it, like kind of basic shit.
Yeah.
But like we were like mid fucking, like, and he like literally stopped and he was like, wait, like, are you okay? Like, are you like whatever? And then I was kind of like embarrassed and I was like, oh, like, yeah, like, no, like I was just, but then it kind of like took me out of it. And then we ended up finishing, but like I didn't really like fuck with the sex as much because I was just like, no, I was like feeling this kink, but like we weren't on the same page.
Right.
But that's why it's so important to communicate. And this is where I struggle because and especially if it's someone you're fucking for the first time, which it was my first time fucking this person. Like it was after a night out. I wasn't necessarily going to be like, you know, like it's awkward.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know I necessarily wanted that until we were fucking.
Right.
So
sometimes it be like that. And like I said, like no just comes out so naturally for me at this point. Like it just kind of happens. And like my last ex-girlfriend who like was literally Christian, like I was not about to tell her about my CNC kink right away. And so the first time we were hooking up, I said like, no, whatever. And she stopped too. And then we just like started doing something else. And later we talked about it. I was like, I wasn't like, you know, but it's like, that's on us. You know, that's on us because what are we mad because people stopped when we said no?
Right. Like it's a good and it's a healthy thing. And it's awkward and it sucks. Like I've been on the other side of it too, kind of, because one guy, like when I would suck his dick and stuff, sometimes he would be like, what are you doing? Like he would be like some of his dirty talk, like he would say like, what are you doing? Like, oh my God, like whatever. And the first time he said that, I was kind of like, what do you mean? Like, what am I doing? Like, I was like, am I sucking his dick wrong? Is he like, does he not want me to do that? Like, it like took a minute to compute, but then I like kind of looked up at him and I was like, oh, he's just like really enjoying it. Like, we're good. Like, it's fine. And we didn't have a conversation about it because I think like it just was
sometimes
like,
it just works.
Sometimes it just works.
I've talked about this in a lot of episodes, how I'm like a huge like supporter of like sexting, like texting, flirting before you have sex, like if you can or whatever. And, like, I've said shit before, like, I love to say no even when it feels good, like emoji. Like, that's a super chill way to just, like, point that out, you know? Yeah. So, like, I'm trying to give, like, tips, like, if you guys are into it.
That is a good one. And I've done, like, something kind of similar when I've been, like, out. Because lately, like, I told you guys, like, I like to just, like, flirt with them, do like foreplay-ish things like when I'm out and then not fuck them. But like I've done things like that where it's like we're out and we're like kind of kissing or like flirting or whatever, and I'm kind of like, oh, like I want you to, like, that's the closest that I've come to, like, but I'm doing it in a flirty way that's part of the conversation where I'm telling them what I like. I think that's a little easier.
Or I've said like, I want to tell you that it hurts even when it doesn't. I've said that, like, but I have never said, like, will you do rape play fantasy with me? Because to be honest with you, I don't even want to do it, like, that full out. But, like, if, like, we were, like, together for a while, like, so comfortable with each other, we wanted to spice it up, I'd be like, okay, like, let's pretend, like, blah, 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 and we could do, like, a whole thing. But, like, I really just like to be, like, having sex and, like, pretending like it's, like, hurting and I can't take it when really I could take a lot more, okay? It doesn't hurt.
But it gets you more into it when you're kind of like, oh my God.
Right.
Like,
No,
stop.
exactly. Exactly.
But the conversation is
So,
so important.
yeah, 83% said things can go wrong. I definitely think things can go wrong, but I don't think that's like a good question to ask because I think it just entirely depends on like the relationship and if it's healthy or not. Like, yes, things can go wrong if you don't talk about it, but if you do it the right way with boundaries, like, no,
But
like,
it's
you know,
also like, think about it like, say there's a guy who's used to doing CNC play with like his ex or something like that, and then he like ends up hooking up with this girl at a bar. They've been flirting all night, but then it gets to the part in sex, and she's like, no. But he's taking his background of CNC play, and they didn't have a conversation. That's where it gets scary because, you know,
'cause
it's
he
not
thought-
like he's like, maybe he didn't have the intention of being like, oh, I'm gonna rape this person. He misinterpreted a kink, but ended up sexually assaulting, raping someone. So like, that's where it can get iffy.
And that's like a thing, dude. That's such a good point. Like, I didn't even think about that. So that totally makes sense. I think that like you should never assume that no doesn't mean no. I think it should be like our job to just like say something. Like, I don't know. Like, you should.
Yeah, I feel like they're like, that's why I'm like, oh, it was annoying when the guy stopped because like I was into it and then it ruined it. But at the same time, like, that's like, I hope that he does continue to do that and practice that with other people because like you never know. Yeah.
You know what's so funny? I just thought of. Because, like, with my ex-boyfriend, I would be, like, straight up, like, no doesn't mean no. Like, stop doesn't mean stop. But, like, I'd say our safe word. And then I'd be like, that is what means stop. And then sometimes we'd be, like, doing it. And we're, like, fucking. And, like, we're doing the role play. I'm like, no, stop. It hurts. Like, stop. He's like, I'm going to make you say that word.
What?
He'd be like, I'm going to make it so hard. You're going to say the safe word tonight. Like, it would be, like, even the safe word would be, like, into it. And, like, he was kidding. Like, I mean, thank God neither of us ever said it. Like, it was fine.
Did you ever say the safe word? Was there?
Not with him or with anyone. No, but I always had them. Like, always.
I've never had them. But I also feel like I honestly, like, I had really good sex with a lot of the, like, guys that I've dated long term. But I don't think our sex ever got to, like, a comfortable enough place where we were comfortable, like, having conversations about it and being like, oh, let's explore more. You know, because that, to me, would be so great to have a healthy relationship where you can literally, like, sit down, like, while you're having some drinks and be like, oh, like, what should we, like, try? Or, like, what should we, like, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah, and I've literally done that. Like, it's really nice. I feel lucky to have done that, and it was not cringe, like, at all. Like,
yeah,
you can even do it when you're, like, a little tipsy. Like, it all depends on what you're doing. Like, if knives are involved, like, you know what I mean? Like, I've never done knife play, guns. Like, that's different. That requires a sober-ass conversation and, like, clear boundaries. But I do feel like the shit that I do is kind of, like, medium on the kink scale or whatever. But safe words also get tricky because what if I can't breathe? If you're choking me, I can't say the safe word. So there's also like, it's like, if your arms or your legs are free, it's like a 3, like, pat, like, all in a row or something. Like, but I've never, like, I'm not really into choking like that, like breath play. I really don't like being choked that much. Like, I like to have you choking me, but not, like, so much that I actually can't breathe. First of all, I don't look cute like that.
Right way. Oh, my God. It's
like,
the worst. I'll sometimes try to, like, push them or, like, make a noise where I'm, like, because you can't say anything sometimes. Like, or it's going to come out, like, oh.
Exactly, and I just don't feel cute, and I don't want to do that.
I know.
But, yeah, and so basically I watched this YouTube video by Evie Lupine. I hope I'm not butchering her name. But essentially, she was talking about CNC. It was a whole video on consensual non-consent. And she was reading a bunch of Reddit stories and sort of analyzing them. And she just kind of talked about the importance, again, of needing to give, like, enthusiastic ×3 consent for this. Like, not just your average consent, you know, conversation, because it can be traumatic and it's controversial because it is, like, inherently just triggering in general. But she also talked about like, yeah, it can end up being deeply traumatic for everyone, not just the sub, also the dom. And then she talked about this like section on like, is it pretend? Like, is this really pretend? And so she basically said, even though it's actually consensual and there's no, coercion going on, with our brain and like emotions, like sometimes our brain doesn't really know the difference between like this is pretend, even though if we know consciously that we're doing a role play, like our heart emotions, like sometimes they don't pick up on that and it just like feels real. So it's like for the dom one, like hearing your partner constantly say no and like begging you to stop, like that can be emotionally damaging, like after going through that.
Yeah.
And for the sub, like having someone continue to go harder when you're saying no, like that shit can feel really real as well. So that's why like you do have to be careful because it's not just like something like loose and fun. Like, you know what I mean? It can be serious also, specifically depending on what you've been through as well.
Yeah, because I'm kind of like, to me, for me personally, like, not to say, like, you can feel, like, everyone needs to feel how they feel, and if you're uncomfortable with it, like, obviously, like, this is good information to take into account, but, like, just thinking about, like, the partners that I've had, like, sex with and had, like, loving relationships where I would do, like, an actual rape play, role play with, I feel like the state of my body in terms of like anxiety and like heart rate and like calm and like security is completely different than like it would be in a situation of actual sexual assault and rape or like even someone I'm fucking the first time. So like I understand what she's saying about like, oh, like your brain literally hearing these words can be the same, but at the same time I feel like for me a lot of it is like body feeling, like that
Right.
physical anxiety and that physical like discomfort and like
Right.
whatever. I couldn't see myself relating them the same way.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel that because it's like, yes, you're hearing it, you're experiencing it, but yeah, like the accelerated heart rate and like your body like shaking and like crying and like, like you wouldn't be like, it's a little bit different. And I think maybe this is more true for people that like have been, raped repeatedly or more in their life, that it's like it could induce a flashback.
Right, like
And so
PTSD.
that's like maybe more like that makes more sense, that maybe your brain is like so conditioned to like being afraid of that, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I want to talk about a little bit if we, have experienced negative emotions or like feeling weird about this.
You know how I was just saying everything about, oh, like your body feels different and like the
Right.
anxiety or whatever, even though it's just words. Like I thought about it more while we just took a mini break, and I don't know.
No, we didn't take a break. We paused the recording because if you guys don't remember, you girls screen record their FaceTime calls.
And it can only take so many minutes.
Yeah, we can't do an hour FaceTime recording. Our phones would crash.
Yeah, and you would have no episode.
But anyways,
so I thought about that a little bit more, and like this isn't really a sex example, but like for example, like with my last situationship, like I remember this one like very specific like moment where like he like got mad at me for something. Like it was like something small, and I didn't really care. Like I wasn't really like, I don't think I really like understood like how mad he was or like whatever, but like he wasn't really being like aggressive, he wasn't yelling, like he was just being like direct or like whatever. But I was laying in the bed trying to go to sleep, and he was standing above, like he was like standing above the bed, and it like I remember I kind of like tweaked out on him, like kind of like yelled at him a little bit and like kind of like just like spazzed out, and then I ended up the next morning tweaked on him, and then I cut him off. Like I had that, like kind of just stopped talking to him for a whole week. That was the first time we ended things. And like I realized like after, like when I was talking to my therapist about it, that was definitely like a trauma response. Like I didn't realize it in the time. Like I was just so angry, and I was like so angry at him because I was like, why would you talk to me like that? Like da-da-da-da, like don't disrespect me like that, like da-da-da. But I don't even think it was really what he was saying or what he was doing. It was just like me feeling how I felt with my ex. So like that's why I almost want to kind of take back what I said before, because even if you do feel safer with this person, you know that they're not your like abuser, or like they wouldn't do like certain things like that like to you, you can still have like an intense trauma response. And sometimes you don't know what's happening, or you don't realize until later. So like I get kind of what she's saying, and I can imagine it's the same for sex. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think trauma's like a weird thing, and it like exists and like unfolds in people's lives like so differently. But I think like it's so real. Like it could happen at any time. Like it doesn't necessarily matter. So and I think just like adding sex on top of it is just like so it just is so violating. Like it's such a you know what I mean? So yeah, I've definitely had negative emotions around it. I've used to have this one strip club regular. He was like this like Italian guy, like bald, like whatever. And he liked to slap me and like degrade me a little bit. Not like that hard, but one time he slapped me like hard. Like I've never been slapped that hard in my life. And I like immediately wanted to cry. It was like horrible.
yeah, like
But that's on
almost.
me for like doing CNC with a strip club regular.
I mean, what was that the first time he slapped you though?
No, like we were like we were regulars, and like we didn't like hook up. Like he would like kiss my neck and like finger me sometimes. He would have all of his clothes on. Like it was very like just like kind of degrading shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there was no fucking, no pussy licking, like none of that for this guy. So, but yeah, that
go ahead.
sucked. That sucked.
Yeah, because
It was really hard.
Like, I know, like, there's this show called The Girlfriend Experience, which I told you should watch, but I also feel like it could be triggering for you. So, like, I don't know.
Right.
It's
And
like
every
about-
time you say that, I'm like, then no, bitch, I'm not
yeah,
watching
then
it.
no, you shouldn't watch it. It was kind of triggering for me too, a little bit, honestly. But like, there was this one. She was an escort, and she had this one client. That I forget if it was the first season or the second. I forget which girl it was, but like he liked to be like very aggressive, like whatever, and he just like progressively got like more aggressive to the point where it was like very uncomfortable. And that's the scary thing about some of this stuff too, where it's like you could have an agreement, but then they're pushing the boundaries, and those people might be more likely to be sexual predators or like
Things
abusers
can go
and stuff.
awry.
Yeah, so because I was gonna say like, yeah, it's your fault, I guess, if it's the first time and you just like didn't completely talk about it. But if you had done it a couple times and you knew how hard the slap was each time, like, who were you to think that he was gonna go fucking crazy like that time? Like, that is not your fault at all.
It was out of nowhere. Like, and it was like, yeah, so that was definitely, I didn't like that. And I think that does like bring up like a good problem, because like when we first did the poll, like, do you think people could, you know, things could go wrong during this? I was kind of like, I mean, no, like as long as everyone's healthy. But now I'm like, actually, yeah, because what you just said, like my situation was with like some type predator dude that goes to the strip club, like whatever, he's like 40. But like in just your casual everyday bitch and, you know, relationship, it could be, you know, like something just could go wrong, because it's hard to put boundaries on every single thing, you know? So that's why it's like, it's not for everyone. Like, I feel like in terms of kinks, like there are risks that go with it and adrenaline. And those risks and adrenaline wouldn't exist if like there was no potential of nothing going wrong. So I think part of me maybe likes the fact that something could go wrong a little bit. I mean, that's what makes it like so
dangerous and fun and
right.
like.
So you have to be comfortable with that, you know?
Because it's kind of the same with like the degradation shit and stuff like that too. Like they could be degrading you or whatever, and then low-key say some shit that hurts your feelings. Like, you know, like it can be with anything where it's like you're bringing in that kind of like the demons or whatever, right. It can go left.
And bro, you know what's so crazy? I literally remember the night after this dude like slapped me hard or whatever. Like I was at home like with my roommate, and me and my roommate like play stupid games. Like we're fucking stupid. And we had this one game where like we would we would slap each other just like that, like super low key. And it was like, she did it last time, she got me. Like it was a game, like we try to dodge it, And when you think the person's off guard, you just like do it. And so it was her turn to do it to me, but like I had just woken up and she did it and I cried. I cried immediately because the sensation of her doing that, and she was like,
It was a
what's
trauma response. Yeah.
right? And so it's just like, yeah, bro. Like, but it's like, could I be slapped today? Yeah, enough time has gone by now. But it is definitely like, if you're gonna do these things, like there are some maybe consequences, you know?
Yeah, and that's why the partner that you pick, I think, is so important.
And
it
having
just,
those
it
in
just
depth.
sucks for like single people, or like, I mean, you can join kink communities and like you
Right.
can talk to people sexting and stuff, but like if you're gonna get to the intense stuff, I almost feel like it's like you really gotta have a secure relationship with that person, like a foundation first. I don't know.
Right, right. And there's also this other article I read, and it was basically saying the same thing. Like, CNC kinks are controversial because they can lead to very painful and confusing experiences if not handled responsibly between the people. Most individuals in the BDSM community will prioritize safety and communication above all else due to respect for the potentially dangerous nature of the activities involved in BDSM if, mishandled. So it's like, there are like potential consequences, but that's why I think like people in these kink communities and like doing these intense types of role play, like they're having really long conversations. They're writing out their boundaries. Like this shit can get like real.
But yeah, it's honestly, the podcast Horrible Decisions we've mentioned before. It's another sex podcast that both of us really like a lot and recommend if you guys want to listen. But I remember Mandy, one of the hosts, she goes to a lot of like kink kind of parties or like events and stuff like that, and in one of the episodes she was talking about consent, and she was like reflecting on her time with her ex and her time in the kink communities, and she was saying, like looking back, I kind of have a weird relationship with consent and some of those experiences, and like she also would like glorify like the kink community and be like, oh, like we have these guidelines, we have all this, da da da, like same with her ex and whatever. But then like stepping outside of it and having new experiences caused her to reflect and be like, wait, like some of this was not like okay. And I think it's similar, honestly, for me with the strip club, where it was like, I was like, oh, this is fine, like sex work is like fine, like I'm comfortable, I'm in control, like whatever. But then like leaving, you think back on certain things and you're like, okay, like wait, was I
wasn't in control.
Like
it's
we
terrifying.
were young. Like we were young, like it was scary, like as much as we like went there and we got paid and we like did our jobs, like there were definitely like times where it's like the lines are blurred a little bit. So you just really have to be like mature for this shit and do your research and like know who you're doing it with, because like I used to like gag and laugh at all that shit, like, oh, respect yourself and like your body is a temple. Like I used to be very much of the mindset of like, oh, I fuck who I want and like I'm not gonna let shame get to me and like all of that. But like as I've gotten older, I'm like, my body is a temple, and it is okay to feel like it's not as empowering sometimes to just act like nothing hurts me or nothing bothers me. Like things do, and it's important to have an awareness of that within yourself and like set those boundaries and like be open to the fact that maybe that wasn't like pleasure even though you wanted it to be, it's
which is
so
hard.
complex.
Like it's really hard, and the lines are so blurry. Sometimes it's like you can't even figure out what happened yourself, and like that doesn't feel good either. But I think what also helps me is just like the things that happen to me and that happen to my body, like it is happening to me. But like at the end of the day, like we are souls. Like our bodies are not really our bodies. Like we're just existing in this vessel. So that helps me too, to know that it's like they can't touch my soul, like whatever. Which like it gets deep, but like it's true. Like y'all can't touch my soul.
Permanent. I remember times where I would get like really down at myself about certain experiences and like just make myself feel like shit, like all this shame. But it is like healing and like good to think like, okay, like you had these bad experiences, but that is not like the sum of your like life. And like maybe you had a bad BDSM experience that made you never want to do it again, and that is totally okay. But you can also like have a bad experience and like still be like, okay, that doesn't define it for me, and let me just figure out how to do this in a more healthy way, which is what I feel like I want more.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll share, I had a bad BDSM experience where someone like bit me OD hard, and I had bruises on my face and all over my body. And like, did I say no? No, I didn't. But it fucking hurt like really bad. And I definitely was like flinching. Like, and now I'm like literally scared of someone biting me. Like, I never want to be bit ever again anywhere. So it's like, it happens, you know, like it does happen. But again, it's like I healed from it. I got over it. Like, it's all good.
You know it's something you don't like, and you're just
and
like,
it's fine. And knock on wood, no one's done it since, because literally every person I'm about to hook up with, I'm like, don't bite me. Like, I'm like OD about it low key, because I'm like, I know it's like cute, but like I don't want it. Okay.
I'm the opposite. I want it. Like, I low key like when they bite like your butt, like kind of near your pussy, and it like hurts. But yeah,
exactly. It hurts.
Okay, so like we had talked about before, like the vanilla shit is like no, stop, whatever. What are you doing? Like I had one person do with me.
What are you doing?
And we kind of talked about the whole rape fantasy thing. But some other forms of CNC include kidnapping, which is a scenario when one individual is role-playing kidnapping another individual.
And these are more extreme examples as well.
Yeah, these are definitely more like high level, like you gotta warm up for this shit. Blackmailing, a scenario in which one individual is role-playing blackmailing another individual. Interrogation, a scenario in which one individual is interrogating another. And somnophilia.
Bitch, I don't know.
I don't know how to say it, but a scenario in which one person is sleeping while the other person performs a sexual act with them. And I didn't realize this was a thing in this kink until we did this research. And I love this. Like, I used to always like pretend that I was like asleep and like get them to try to turn me on, like shit like that. Like, I also love waking up the guys I've been with like head. Like, I don't really want them to wake me up with head, but I like to wake them up with head. So
yeah, I've liked waking up and like his dick was like about to be inside me, and like I fucking loved it. And if he would be like, I'm not even gonna wait for you to get wet, like all, and I know most girls are like, ow, ew, but I liked it. I don't know what
but
to
like
say.
You almost got wet, like
because I like it was like very immediately wet, like while he said that, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's more like dirty talk versus whatever. But another one that I kind of want to mention is with exhibitionism, and that's one of my favorite ways of doing it. Like, I love to be like, when I'm out to dinner with someone or like whatever, like try to touch their dick like under the table and then be like, no, stop, like chill, like stop, like we're in public. And I'm like, no, like I'm going to turn you on so much. Or same when they're driving. Like, you know, when it's like they don't really want you to, but they do, like whatever. So it's like kind of mixing those kinks.
Yeah.
Is another one of my favorites, but yeah.
So now we're going to talk about the next poll we asked y'all. Do you think it's normal, quote unquote normal, to have a CNC kink? And this one was like so 50-50. 43% says yes, it's normal. And 57% said not really. Fiji, any thoughts?
I mean, it's not really
Pass it over to you.
50-50. It's more 60-40-ish. It's close to
right.
50-50. It's more 60-40.
Right.
But it's so funny because the majority of people, it was less people that said they've done it, but it was the majority of people said yes or maybe that they would try it. And I think a lot of people are curious about it and would be into it. I think it's more normal and more common
than people
we
think.
Especially
right. They just don't know.
Shit. They just don't know. Like, I think a lot of people, it's like sex education. Like, we have like little sex education in fucking 7th grade or whatever in high school. But when do we really learn about kinks? Like, it's unless you're on Pornhub. Like, on Pornhub, you learn like a little bit, but like you don't really learn about it as much for your like regular sex life, relationships with your partner, unless you do the research. So I really think it's like seen as a taboo because obviously sexual assault and rape, like, taboo as fuck. And there's been a lot about consent in our generation because, like, so many college women had been raped and, like, all of, like, Me Too and, like, all of that. And I think a lot of men are very afraid of CNC play
Terrified.
right now, which is valid.
And they should be.
Valid. And they should be. But
they're terrified.
I think it's way more common than we think.
I'm like, do you need us to have a conversation recording that I want you to do this to me? Like, no, but yeah, I think maybe it's like people are afraid to try it and haven't done it because there is this stigma around it and that it's so intense, but it really doesn't have to be like,
right.
Like when I say no, like most of the time I'm literally thinking like, no, like I'm gonna like finish, like stop, like whatever.
Right.
Not even like, no, get off me. Like, it's not even like that. Like, but it depends. Like, as we talked about, things can go awry. So it's okay to not want to do CNC. I don't think it's okay to say that it's not normal to like CNC,
kink
though.
Shaming.
That's kink shaming, and that's more representative of you and how you feel about the things you like and shame about you, because that's just projection, baby. And it's finest. But it's fine, because also if you don't know about it, and you think it's just role play of rape, like, that's okay to, like, be a little, like, because maybe there is something a little bit wrong. But as we pointed out, it can, in fact, be healing and be the answer for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I forget what episode I was just... I think it was our praise and degradation episode where we kind of talked about, like, how you were just saying no means you're actually about to come, and like how saying no takes the pressure off of having an orgasm.
Oh, I'm so smart. Yes.
Exactly. So like sometimes like saying no because when they're like, oh, I'm trying to make you come, oh, I want to get
instead
you
of
come,
being like
there's
yes,
so much pressure. Instead of like when I say yes, I'm like, I'm not gonna get there. But if I say no, it's like it takes the pressure off, and I'm like so much closer. And that technically would be CNC play.
Exactly.
You know?
Because you're not supposed to say no during sex. I mean, that's what they have drilled into us. You know what I mean? And that's a very real thing. Mm-hmm. But this is a healthy kink, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think if you maybe only do CNC and you can't get off without CNC, which I don't know if
I feel like all of my like masturbation like fantasies have some element of degradation in CNC.
Same. So that's where I start to feel shame, is because I don't really like the so much passionate sex. Like, you're telling me you love me and how beautiful I am, looking into my eyes as you fuck the shit out of me. Like, I do like that if we're like in a deep relationship. Like, I'm talking like 2 years in though. But like in general, like how guys think like girls want to be fucked, I don't like at all.
See, yeah, I don't.
Because you like sensual.
But
it's degrading too.
Exactly, because the sensual sex that I like is like the I love you so much, but like I'm not supposed.
I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, it's like the shit with my ex, and I feel like it's kind of like how I said like we would always fuck after like trauma. I don't even know if it's just him. Like, I want to, like, be clear that it's not, like, I base all of my sexual experiences and relationships off my ex. It's just that, like, I was with him for 3.5 years, and you're the sum of your experiences. Like, I will have more. But I feel like it was that we would, like, have sex after we got into these, like, crazy-ass fights. And, like, I would be like, I'm not supposed to love him, but I love him so much. So, like, the sex would be this mix of, like, he was not degrading me during the sex, but like he had just degraded me in real life. And then it was like the CNC, because it was like, no, I shouldn't be fucking you, but I want to. So like that's like the complex, and I feel like that's why I like it. But I do think before I even met him and went through that, I think that I liked that, like, I love you, but I shouldn't type of thing, which made me more vulnerable to being with him. Because I also think it's just pushed so much in our society. I mean, even, like, The Notebook, which is one of the most famous fucking love movies, he's, like, hanging on the Ferris wheel, and she's like, get off, no, stop, go, away. And he's like, no, I love you. You know, because love is so much more powerful than, like, stop.
That's why I'd be ignoring my standards for these fucking men because I'm like, love is so powerful.
Right.
And I'm just gonna, I know it's all society to blame, like Romeo and Juliet. Like, we really just be loving the struggle train. And when you mix that shit in with like CNC and like sex, like, yeah, that shit can really hit. Like, that can really
it
hit.
hits so hard because it's like both. But I think I do need a mix of the like I love you, passionate, sensual shit with that stuff. And I don't think you're wrong for not, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with you
sure?
or whatever. I'm positive. Like, you like what you fucking like. Like, I don't think we should make ourselves feel shame or like kink shame or like whatever.
And maybe I just like haven't met the right person or like done it with the right person that's gonna like, like maybe that's it. But anyway, so I found this article on like Psychology Today, and it's literally called "Are CNC Kinks Normal?" because like there's a huge stigma, it's controversial. So basically it's just saying like the question in itself is like stupid because like obviously like sexual pleasure is sexual pleasure. We're all humans, we're all different. The important question to ask is it being executed or acted upon healthfully and responsibly. If the kink is causing harm to another person or a living creature, then the answer is no. That kink is not healthy and should not be acted upon. But basically, they included this study, and this one was in Belgium. It's not in the U.S., but whatever, okay? In 2017, they found that nearly 50% of over 1,000 adults in Belgium reported engaging in at least one BDSM-related activity. And additionally, the study found that 22% of individuals responded that they had at least fantasized about engaging in BDSM activity, even if they had never participated. So a bunch of people are doing it and people are fantasizing about it. And yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better, I guess. This study was from 2016 and it's in the US and it was published in the Journal of Sex Research. And it found that the general population has a preference for kinky sex. 47% of women and 60% of men surveyed harbored fantasies about being dominated or dominating someone sexually. So, like, it's definitely a thing. And we know that also because of, like, porn. And it's, like, literally everywhere. It wouldn't be there if people weren't consuming it.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, like, the question is fucked up within itself. But again, where it gets blurry for me is if all you like is CNC, if all you can do is get off on CNC, is that normal? And I don't know. You guys tell me because
I don't think it's a problem. Honestly,
okay.
I don't. I think it's just the type of sex that you like. I think there's just more of a stigma with it because, like, even this 2017 study, like 50%, okay, half have done it, but 22% of the people that haven't done it thought about doing it. So like that together is 72% of the people in the study that are open to it.
Right.
So that's like the majority. And
out of 1,000, that's 720 people.
Right. That's a lot. And then out of the other one, like about domination, like, again, guys, I always have to bring up like history and like puritanical times or whatever, but like I think, like, our society, and this was in Belgium, but, like, especially America, like, we have such a fucked up history of, like, domination and control and subjugation and, like rape and slave, like, so much fucked up shit that it's, like, deep into our culture and the media that we consume and all of that. And at the same time, we're in this puritanical society that was built on religion and, like, this is the devil and, like, don't have sex and, like, all of that stuff, which seems like opposite. But like you're getting all of these influences where it's like, oh, you should feel bad about sex, like sex is shame, like based off of religion and all that
which
stuff.
Is like pleasure is shame.
Right, pleasure is seen as shame, but then at the same time, all of this violence, which is going to leave a lot of people with a lot of trauma. So it's like, and those kind of seem to be the like breeding grounds of these kinks. So like it makes sense just as a person in this society, even if you haven't experienced, sexual assault that we talked about or whatever, like just growing up based off of these influences, it makes sense.
Right.
Know?
And it's also just like the basic statement of like what's wrong, like feels good or whatever. And, like, in this society, it's, like, so heightened with all of our history as well. It's just, like, yeah, Like, I get why people were kind of like, maybe they thought this was like off-putting that we were talking about it, but I hope that they listened to the episode, like people on Instagram, I mean, just because like I can't say enough that it doesn't, CNC does not need to be some intense thing that you need to sign a contract of boundaries with, like, but it can be, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, there's nothing to feel shame about it. Like, I think if anything, I just need to do more inner work and like maybe try some new sex stuff. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Right.
Maybe try different porn, you know?
Yeah, but we got some really good listener stories for this episode, so I want to jump into those.
So the first one is it's likely a trauma response. If not, something's just screwed loose. LOL in capital letters. And I feel like this is a common belief, and I think this is a person that
Don't
voted
out
that
them.
they do it. But I'm like, to give context, like, I don't think this person is like kink shaming towards other people. Like, they're like, oh, you know, like, you're weird. Because I think that they either voted that they've done it or that they're interested in it. So I think that's important too, because they think that of themselves.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe it could be a trauma response. You could have a screw loose. I don't fucking know. I think it's more of us than we think. So I don't think it's bad.
You definitely don't have a screw loose. It's more like you have a twisted sexual little.
Don't we all though? Like, isn't all so much of sex is twisted? Like,
Right.
some of it is love.
Not to
but, like,
everyone, not to like people that wait till marriage. Like, they're not doing CNC, bro.
But
There's no
some
way.
of those people though, some of those people that wait, because think about it, they've had so much time to fantasize by themselves and masturbate. I've heard some of the people that be like that get freaky as fuck. Like, freaky as fuck. So, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like trauma comes up around this kink so much because it's like a kink like about like trauma in a sense. Like, it is twisted. You know what I mean? But it's like, if you don't want to take it there and do a full-on sexual assault role play, like, you don't need to think about it like that. You know?
Yeah.
This next listener said, this one I liked. I liked this one, bro. This listener said, one time a girl asked me to break into her house, quote unquote. We had fun, LOL. It was healthy.
I love this.
I literally smiled so hard. I was like, fuck, like, I want to go on a date and like we
like,
do that.
Him just,
He's like
outside
LOL,
the
like
window.
I just picture them being like, all right, so you're going to come through the door. Like, you're going to act like, what's up, bitch? Give me the money. Like,
right. Like, it's so funny. And I feel like that's why I've like been afraid to do role play in the past, because I'm like, I feel like I would laugh. Like,
you
like,
can't
imagine
laugh,
him
bitch.
like outside the window. Like, I would have to
They're
be,
coming
like,
in like,
we would low-key have to do foreplay like a little bit first, because I have to be really horny, because if we just like went into it without being horny, like, I literally feel like I would laugh so hard. Like,
dude, like, I remember like when I did role play with my second girlfriend and we like had this whole thing, like, she was like my brother's best friend or whatever, and I like made her go outside and come in and like all this stuff or whatever. Oh my God, it was crazy. And then she like sat down, like, cause she was like low key into acting. Like, this bitch was low key a performer. So she was like down,
was, like could win an Oscar for the
it like aligned, bro. And like she was just
and
like,
you too, you like acting too.
right. So that's why I'm like very into like playing characters. I mean, that's what I do every day, LOL. But so yeah, she like sat down and put on a blanket and she was like, you want to share this blanket with me? Like, it was so like, oh my God, it was crazy. But yeah, I love that. I love this man or whoever that submitted. The way that he said, we had fun, LOL, it was healthy, goals. Like, you know, it was.
I love that he used the word healthy too. I feel like men don't be using that a lot with
yeah, do they even know what that word means?
Right. Like,
in this context?
I love him. Okay, this next one said, okay, so I answered no when I said I've never done it, and at the time I really thought I would like it. But as an SA victim, it was actually very triggering, and my quote-unquote partner at the time kept trying.
She's saying, like, okay, so I answered no when I said I've never done it, meaning, like, in the polls.
Yeah.
But then she was like rethinking it, like, oh, maybe I would like it. But then she was like, well, actually, as an SA victim, like, it was actually very triggering. Oh, so maybe she has done it before with a partner. And she like, oh, okay. So she's saying, okay, so I answered no when I said I've never done it, but she actually has done it. And then she's saying, like, before we did it, at the time, I really thought I would like it. But as an SA victim, it was actually very triggering, meaning like she's done it. And my partner at the time kept trying to push her to like do it more. But as an SA victim, she didn't want to do CNC.
Yeah, so see, yeah, that's like what we were talking about, where it's like it can be really triggering for people, and like you shouldn't do it. And you
Right.
should respect your partner too. Like, it can be hard, you know, if your kinks don't align. Like, say you meet this person, you fall in love without sex, or like with vanilla sex, but like we're afraid to tell them about your CNC kink, and then you tell them, and then they are not comfortable with it because they're an SA victim. Like, that can be hard, but like you have to respect it, and like
You have to. Oh my God, I would. I'd be like, holy shit. Like, I've like, yeah, like people have
but
like told me like,
what if? Because, like, you said you can't have sex without it. So, like, what if you fell in love with someone that was like, no, I couldn't do it? Like, would you be able to have a relationship with them? Because, like, I feel like sex is very important.
why do I feel like I'm on the hot seat?
It's a hard question.
You know, I've thought about this. And the girlfriend I had last, like my last girlfriend, you know who it is. She was worried, like, or not worried, but she was like, just like curious, like, since I don't want to slap you in the face, like, is that like sad for you? Like, are you like really, but talking about slapping in the face, because she was like low key down with like some vanilla CNC, I feel like.
Yeah.
But, and I was like, no, honestly, like I don't care about, like, I feel like I would figure it out. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to fall in love with them unless our sex is compatible. So like,
Right.
I would figure that out pretty soon and maybe like be not interested anymore. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
That's.
Okay, this next listener said something about being kidnapped turns me on. Like, I'm so weird. And like, no, you're not, but everyone thinks they are. And it's honestly reassuring for me because like, I feel like I've gone so long. Like, I like used to do like violent sexting in like middle school. Like, I've always just like been very comfortable sexually and like very interested on like the lengths I could go. And so, yeah, like it, but it's like, no, you're not weird. Like, I mean, kidnapping is scary. It's an adrenaline situation. Like, you want to like feel that. I mean, I get it. I've never been kidnapped. Maybe if I had, I would feel very differently.
Right. I like that we had two about kidnapping because I had never really thought of that as one.
Continue.
I had never really thought of kidnapping as a kink or
Right.
like, as a fantasy, but I like that two listeners said that because I feel like I've learned about just different kinks from you. Like I said, like slapping wasn't something I've really been into, but like now I'm like, oh, I would like that. Like now I'm kind of like, damn, maybe I would be into the kidnapping thing.
This is why I think I'm like Aphrodite because I put bitches on to like fluidity and sexuality, like growing up. I put bitches on to kinks. Like that's why I identify with Aphrodite. I'm like
and that's why we have this podcast. Because...
Right. Exactly. So, but yeah, I just got kind of like in my own thoughts. I forgot what you were saying. I was like, damn, like I really put her on. Like, but yeah, and I think it's good. Like, you're explorative. Like, you're not, you know what I mean? There's maybe certain things you'd be like, definitely not. Something I didn't talk about is I have done burn play where like someone burned me with a cigarette.
Oh yeah. Were you like no, or were you like yes, do it?
Well,
I feel like that's more BDSM versus CNC.
It's like I literally have the scar. I have the scar right here too. Like it's on my arm, like right here. And it was like we were just like we did it. I was like, I want to see how it feels. Like, can you do it? We weren't fucking or anything. And then she did it, and it like really hurt, but it was like hot. We kissed after. And then later when we were hooking up, we like tried to do it again, but since I had already felt it,
you were like,
I was actually never mind. And she was like, yeah, like what are you like?
See,
calm
I feel
down.
Like burn play would be a little crazy with CNC though. Like imagine you're like, don't burn me, and then they burn you. Like I could see that going very wrong.
Wait, what do you mean? They're
like if you like, because you were like, oh no, like burn me. Like you told her to do it. You were like, no, don't do it. So it was like BDSM shit and not really CNC as much.
Right.
But like, And that's the same with like knives and guns. Like I feel like I would do gunplay if there were no bullets in it. If there were bullets in it, I don't think I could get over it. I don't know.
Yeah, because I wasn't combining CNC with that specific burn play. That was more just like explorative about the burn. So that's such a good point, because I do remember saying like no, never mind, but like she got it, or they got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, your turn.
Okay, nothing unsexier than non-consensual sex. So unflattering in so many ways. And I completely agree. Like, non-consensual sex is rape. Like, without consent, it is rape.
But that's not what we're talking about.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about consensual non-consent. Like, consensual non-consent.
But I think maybe they're even saying like, how could that be a kink? Like, how could that turn you on? Which like I literally would never argue with that. Like, I get it. Like, I understand, and I've thought about it a lot myself, and I don't know. And I know I'm not alone, because everyone fucking else does. Like 720 people in Bulgaria or Belgium. Oh God. But yeah. So, yeah.
But that's why I think it's important to educate people, because it's like, is it okay for you to say, I would never do this, I don't like this, whatever? But again, let's not kink shame. Like, let's not... Whatever.
I'm never gonna get mad if someone doesn't like it. Like, I accept everything, but it's like, don't make me feel weird because I do like it.
Like, the low-key, like, there's some kinks that, like, disgust me and I want to kink shame, like the needle thing.
Oh, yeah. I don't want to hear about the needle. I don't want to hear about the needle.
But, like, it's a kink. And
but I also think, like,
future.
If, like, some, like two brain cell dudes, like, I'm like, yeah, like, I like a rape fantasy. They're like, oh, daddy issues. Oh, stripper. Oh, prostitute. So it's also, like, you know what I mean? That's what I hate. And at this point, I'm like, I'm not going to try to convince them other ways. I don't really care. Yeah. But, like, when women kink shame, it drives me fucking nuts.
Because we hold women to a different standard, because it's like...
Because y'all should know. Like, we're smart. They're not. I know. But maybe that's... I don't know. It's not like I want to let men get away with it, but I'm fucking tired. Like, I've tried. Right. Like, yeah. But anyways, this last listener said, as long as everyone's on the same page, meaning, like, CNC is totally fine. Like, as long as everyone's on the same page, like we said... Having conversations, being clear if you want safe words, and whatever.
Okay, so let's wrap up the episode talking about what we're wet, dry, and confused about the topic. And I'll go first. I'm definitely wet that we are kind of talking about the stigma with it, because I feel like our audience on Instagram and the polls and just everything that I've ever heard about rape play and CNC has been very negative.
Right.
But like, I think I've realized in the past like couple years that I do like some of it, and like you have for like a while, and I've learned a lot of stuff through you too. And through the audience, like kidnapping was not something that I had ever really thought about, but like now I'm like, okay,
let's try it.
Into it. Like I want to try it. Like I'm so here for it. So I'm definitely just wet. Every time we do a kink episode, like I really feel like it opens our eyes too. Like as much as we're like trying to teach you guys, like we're learning with you. And I really just think knowledge is power with sex. Like we gotta learn this shit. We gotta try it out. We gotta figure out what we don't like. All of that to just have a better, like more whole sex life. So I'm very glad about that.
Yeah, and we just love talking about kinks, and like we've even said sometimes like we should do definitely like one kink episode like every 2 months or whatever. Because exactly, like I like learning about it too. Like I've always kind of known what I liked, but it's cool to like put a name to it and see that there's like full on communities, YouTube videos, Reddit posts, like from people all over the world like talking about it. Like it's cool. So I'm wet about that. I'm wet about the potential of maybe changing someone's mind about it. Maybe someone who thought that this is not normal, and now they're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't really know about the vanilla version or whatever. So I'm wet about the potential of changing minds. I would say I'm dry. I'm so dry about all the trauma that can come with, you know, sex in general. Like it's supposed to be like a beautiful, like healing thing. And unfortunately, it's like sexual assault just lives on so hard in our society on all genders all the time. So it's like, even though this is like a kink that I love and I'm like happy to talk about, at the same time, like it is deep, like it is heavy, and it can get a lot more heavy depending on where the conversation goes and like what experiences you've done. So I'm definitely dry about that. But again, wet about how we did say at the beginning that it can be healing for sexual assault survivors too.
Yeah, I'm definitely dry about the trauma too, and the blurred lines of things where it's because it's consensual, non consent, like where consent picks up and goes away. I'm definitely dry about myself for not always like having the conversation with people. I think it's something that like I need to do a better job of. Um, because, you know, like that's not like healthy. Like you should at least talk about it before you do it, because this
Right.
is like a really dangerous kink at times. I'm also just dry. I'm not fucking anybody right now. Like, I want to experiment. I want to be having good ass sex.
Bro,
I want to be like,
too.
no, while they fuck me so hard.
I'm like mad. Like,
it.
I would look so cute, like doing it. Like, I'm pissed.
I'm like, at least I have my Rose and I have that
Like,
new,
no.
like, fantasy. I know, I'm sick of my Rose. Like, my Rose is tired. She is burnt out. Like, she's exhausted.
Right.
So
yeah, I would say I'm confused about whether, you know, it's cool to only like CNC and not like anything else. Like, definitely that's confusing and like worth exploring, whatever. I'm confused about women that kink shame. I just think that's so fucking stupid. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I hate that shit. Like, but then it's like, okay, we hold women to a higher standard because they're smart, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, is that the patriarchy too? Because it's like, oh, men will just like, you
like
expect
we
it.
give men the pass, but we don't give women
like not the pass, but it's just like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, I'm still mad about it, but it's just like, yeah, like it's not surprising, but it's like women hating on other women like still surprises me sometimes. I'm just like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
it's fucked up. I'm not here for it. I'm confused about why we don't receive more education about kinks. Like, I get it. Like, maybe high school, like middle school is definitely too young.
But college, there should have been Kink 101.
Right, and it's, well, you could probably take electives in that, but even, like, not everybody goes to college. Less and less people are going to college. Like, I don't think it's bad to have a kink class. Like, people are going to come for me on this shit because a lot of people, especially in the South, are against critical race theory and, like, sex education and so much shit. But, like, as seniors in high school, a kink class or learning about pleasure and sex, I think would be great. I'm sorry, because at least it's public school that everybody has to go to. Imagine how many people would like learn more about pleasure with their bodies, and how many more people would like not be sexual predators and learn about like consent and all of that stuff. I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to happen or going to happen for a long time because, again, we live in a society that shames sex.
And people would be so awkward in that class, but it's like maybe that, like the continuity of doing that through generations, that would help take away the stigma.
Right. Like, I know, like, I don't know if I necessarily want to have kids, but if I ever have kids, like, that conversation about sex is so awkward, but, like, I want to be able to, like, provide an environment for them to learn about it, if not with me, but with other people, like,
and you will, babe, no
like,
doubt.
whatever. Yeah, because it's so important. Like, I'm embarrassed at the fact that it's like I had to be 23, 24 years old to like realize things about my body and my pleasure or whatever. Like, when I've been fucking since I was 15, like,
right,
that's years of sex.
And that's straight shit too. Like, I feel like growing up as a straight girl, like, it's so different. Like, it's, you're not, like, 9 times out of 10, like, you're not the one that's being pleasured. Where that's why, like, I genuinely feel lucky, like, growing up, like, hooking up with women. Because, like, you know what I mean? Like, because, and it's, like, that's so, dude, I know.
Because I didn't even masturbate till I was, like, 18, I want to say.
Well,
like,
me too. I went on to that late.
Yeah, I got into it late too, but I had been fucking people for like it's just such a disconnect to me, and it just is so like obvious, clear. Like, but people think like same with gender, learning about gender and all of that. People think in schools if you teach kids about gender, everyone's gonna want to become trans. Like, That is just like an insane mindset to me, and it's the same with if we talk
Like, you're
about kinks
acting
and
like
culture.
it's like once you found out about it, you like want to be it. Like, it's like a virus. Like,
No,
doesn't
it's just
work like that.
knowledge is power, and knowledge helps you accept other people and also like know yourself. It doesn't like people that we're gonna choose or not choose, but are non-binary or are trans. It's not like
They're
you know
still
what I'm
going to
saying?
be that whether
They're
there's
still
a
gonna
class
be
or not.
regardless of if there's a class or not. You just make it easier for them and give them less trauma if you have it available. So I don't know, like that's kind of a tangent, and I think some people would think that that's very political, especially in the South. Like I know a lot of people that are very against all of that stuff, but I just feel so passionately that it should be a thing.
I love that for you. I think you should go give a speech like at high school, like So Wet, So Dry on tour. We should just go to a bunch of high
They
schools
would not let us go to a high
and do a
school. Are you
kink
kidding
class.
me?
Like, we're the
I would
teachers. Like,
that would be dope.
we'll
if
get
we
a
did that.
degree, like, real quick in education.
I would love to get like I've been thinking about that. Like,
Yeah, I definitely don't want to do that. But I mean, I don't want an education degree, but I do want to go to high schools and teach kids about kink.
Yeah, I feel like the high schools they wouldn't let us. The colleges they might. But.
Right, but then they're like over us. They don't give a fuck about us. Like the high
Yeah.
school kids would think we're like. I mean, maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. But yeah, kind of a tangent. But at the end of the day, if you like CNC, there is nothing wrong with you. Just always make sure you're doing it in a safe way with boundaries and really just making sure, you know, you can set yourself up to just not get hurt and have a good time, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's a kink. It's a fantasy. And yeah, so wherever you guys are listening, make sure that you follow, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode. It would mean so much to us. We, like I said, we post polls on Instagram and are very active on TikTok. That's at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. Please follow us and submit in our polls. We would love to, you know, give you the opportunity to share something and we can talk about it.
Yes, and if you guys like the episode, we really hope you rate us, give us 5 stars, 4 stars, you know, preferably 5.
No, 4 stars. 5 only.
5 only. If you feel anything less, you know, you don't have to rate us.
Yeah.
But if you're listening on Spotify, we have listener support. It's either 99 cents a month, $4.99, or $9.99. When you think about it, that's so fucking cheap. That's cheaper than your Uber Eats. That's cheaper than a pack of cigarettes. That's cheaper than a lot of shit. But it really helps us pay for our equipment and our trips. It also just makes us feel like maybe we could potentially do this in the future and travel to schools and have a career in podcasting
and
do
teach
all of these
young children
things.
about kinks.
Yeah, I don't know about young children. Let's not.
Young adults. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We love you so much, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Bye. He's never gonna look at a bad bitch ever again.
My girl will dress appropriately when she goes out. None of that hoe shit.
If a bitch comes up to my man at the bar, he runs the other direction immediately, screaming with his hands up, I have a girlfriend, I have a girlfriend.
She can't have any guy friends. I don't trust that shit.
Love letters will be written and delivered by pigeons daily.
If she's bi, she can't have any girlfriends either. Fuck a sleepover. I don't want to hear it.
If he takes me on a vacation for 6 days, he's buying me 6 outfits.
She can't post selfies. She needs to send those to me only.
If a girl is cold around him, he zips up his jacket tighter.
If the homie is bumping his music, she cannot dance and sing along. You don't fuck with that shit.
He can't follow any other women on Instagram besides me.
If she is a mom or becomes a mom, she can never go to the club again.
He cannot just have a day with his homeboys. Saturdays are not for the boys. I know what y'all be fucking up to.
She can't be having fucking girls' nights and going out. I know that's just some attention-seeking bullshit.
If he hasn't seen me in the past at least 15 minutes, he has to come through with a new compliment he's never said before when he sees me again.
My dick needs to be sucked whenever the fuck I want it sucked.